Well, this just might be the best tubeless tire sealant I've ever used. And it's definitely not made in the garage of some guy named Joe. Tubeless tire setups for bicycle use. Well, that's not a new thing anymore, is it? No, it's pretty much proven, and in the Granny Gear household, all of the main bikes that for myself and the missus, they are all set up tubeless, road, gravel, or mountain. So especially for us out here on the West Coast, we have a lot of little puncture thorns and things to deal with, and not just that, and you add into that the debris on the road, potential for cactus and things like that. Well, tubeless makes a whole lot of sense. But along with the tubelessness and all the benefits, well, there's a bit of maintenance. There's a little bit of responsibility involved with that. It's a little bit more complicated than just having a tube in there. Part of that maintenance is having a tubeless tire sealant in there. The sealant is the liquid that you put in your tire that rushes to the hole that just got popped into your tire, and it hopefully seals all that up, lets you continue riding. And the sealant, well, sometimes that can be bit of a pain. For instance, back in the day, I used to make my own sealant. When tubeless tires for mountain bikes first came out, I made my own sealant. I used liquid latex or latex in a jar, kind of in a from like hobby stores and things like that, mold maker basically, and I combined that with automotive windshield washer fluid, the ammonia based, and that would make a solution. And basically I'm creating my own sealant. And that was okay for a while, but it's kind of a little bit of trouble, and you make a lot of it and it ends up kind of spoiling over time, so that didn't work great. And then I used Stan's for quite a few years, Stan's tubeless sealant, and that has advantages and disadvantages. I used Orange Seal, again, love some things about that, but there's some downsides of that were very annoying. And I've used most recently the Wilderness Trail Bike sealant. And again, all of those sealed the holes. I had no complaints with that, but each one of them had some downsides. Stan's, you get the little stanimals in there. As the sealant dried out, the liquid would dry, and you get these little rubbery things bouncing around in your tire that you need to get that out of there because it tends to get your tire out of balance, And then the Orange Seal, man, the latex would separate out and coat everything, coat your tire, your rim, your tape. Sometimes it'd be so much latex, it would pull my tape off when I broke the tire bead to change the tire, and that's annoying, right? And then it would block the valve stem, your Presta valve would get clogged on the bottom. That's a lot of trouble. So Orange Seal had its downsides, and the WTB stuff, the grit in there, the little microspheres would separate out and just coat everything. And man, that was a lot of trouble to get that stuff off. So with each sealant I'd used, yeah, they worked, but sometimes living with them, it was less than ideal. Now, a while back, a representative for Joe's No Flats reached out to me and said, hey, we make a really, really good sealant. I'm going to send you some. I want you to try it. I'm not going to tell you a lot about it. I want you to try it. I want you to use it. I want you to let me know what you think. And if you like it, I want you to talk about it on your channel. And I said, Joe's No Flats? I hardly ever heard of it. In fact, I almost had never heard of it. And when I did think about it, I thought, it sounds like some guy named Joe is making this in his garage. Well, the guy laughed. He said, actually, this company behind this is a very, very large and successful adhesive company, and they make more sealant just about anybody else out there. I said, oh, okay. Simple name, big company with a lot of pedigrees in making, well, sealant-y type things, glues and adhesives and whatnot. And I said, well, sounds like they may know how to make sealant then. Let's give it a try. Now, I've been using Joe's sealant now in all my tires. I converted them all over for probably the 3 months or so, a little at a time. I want to talk about how it's been to live with and what I think of it so far, and well, if I'm in for Joe's or not. This is the Super Sealant. I've been using this more than any of the other sealants, and they have a variety of different sealants depending upon the application. This would be the general purpose, pretty much just about for everybody sealant. Seals holes up to 6 millimeters, it says. It also is good for up to about 70 psi of pressure. And generally, this is what you would buy if you just for your gravel bike, your mountain bike, potentially for your road bike. Although, if you're running higher pressures in your tubeless road tires, Generally, you're not. I mean, I'm down to like 55, 60 pounds in my road bike tires at this point, but you would be getting near the top end, maybe in this case, for the super sealant for road use, but they have a solution for that as well. They have the Road Leader Sealant. Now this goes up to 120 PSI rated. So here's the thing, right? The pressure inside your tire when you puncture your tire as you're riding is trying to force the air and the sealant out, rushing to the hole. If there's enough pressure in there, it might just keep pushing the sealant out before it can clot. However, the Road Leader Sealant is good up to 120 PSI, okay? So that could be an advantage if you're still running higher pressures in your tires. This is enough, basically this little bottle, it's an applicator tip. This is enough to do one set of tires. You use half front tire, half in the rear tire. Now, if you're running tubes in your tires, like a lot of people are, they want to put sealant in the tube. And you know, it's a pretty good idea. Yeah, it adds a little weight in there, but also if you get a thorn or a piece of wire or glass and it goes through your tire, through your tube, if there's sealant in there, it's probably have a pretty good chance of sealing it. That's a popular way to do things. But the trick with that is if you've got a tube in a tire, like a 23 or a 25 millimeter tire, even a 28, you might be running higher pressures, like maybe 80 PSI. And if you are, well, that might be too much for some of the other sealants, but not for the Road Leader. So there is that. And there's other ones like this. This is the Elite Racer Sealant. This is designed for like a race day application. The idea is if you're in a race, and if you you cut your tire, you want it to seal as quickly as possible just to get you back because, you know, the podium awaits, right? Well, this is designed for that maximum sealing performance. Now, sometimes there's a compromise with something like this. It maybe won't last as long in your tire or it'll have some other things. Maybe it's a thicker solution, and so it might tend to do something else that living with it on a daily basis doesn't make sense like it would with this one. However, for the right application, for like I said, race day sealant, well, this could be what you want to use. And the moral of the story is, well, Joe Snow Flat seems to have different levels of sealant depending upon, well, your application. That's not a bad thing, is it? So, after living with this now for 3 months or so across various bikes, how has it been to live with? How has it sealed things? Well, I really don't know because as far as I know, I haven't cut a tire. Have I popped a hole in a tire and this just sealed it and I never even knew it? Very possible, because all the sealants I've used would seal. Okay, that wasn't the problem. It was living with them that bothered me. So until I get a cut that I know I have or a hole in my tire, I'll have to wait and see how that treats me. But based on living with it and just seeing how it seems to be working in my tire, I'm not too afraid that it's not going to do its job. Now, when you pour Joe's Super Sealant into your tire, you get a very thick, very milky type of solution into your tire, right? It's got a little bit of grit in it, feels like little micro pores, which helps clot. I feel that. What you want it to do is stay that way in your tire. In other words, you don't want it to dry out really fast. You don't want the solution to break down. You don't want the latex to separate out. If there's any grit in there that helps clot, you don't want that to come out. You want it to stay looking as much as possible like it looked when you put it in consistency, and you want that to do that for as long as possible. That is a good thing. What I've noticed with Joe's, like the other day I had a tire, I probably set it up a month ago and I'm testing some tires on the gravel bike, so I'm going through tires. Popped it open to see, and I bet you I still had 50% of the solution that I put in there for Joe's. Some of it had dried out, some of it had coated the tire a little bit, you know, just as kind of smeared everywhere. But it still had the same consistency it did when I first put it in. It was just as thick, just as milky, and just as together, if you will. Wow, I like that. So only a month, but still, that's a good sign. Now, what I haven't done is had it come through like a hot summer months yet, because I haven't been using it in the summer, where in a hot garage, the sealant tends to want to dry more, etc. That's yet to come. We'll see how that treats me, but so far, it really seems like it stays in solution very, very well. Now, the other thing I liked about it is how it cleans up. Some of the sealants, like I said, would deposit latex everywhere, deposit the grit everywhere, and cleaning that off when you're like changing a tire, you want to get your rim kind of clean so the new tire sits on it really well. I'm telling you, if I say an hour cleaning tires or rims sometimes with some of the other sealants, I am not kidding. It's tedious, it's time consuming, and it's difficult. I'd rather not do it. What I've noticed with Joe's is you just rinse it off. I mean, literally, I rinse it off the tire and the tube with the tire and the rim with a garden hose. It just comes completely clean. It's really remarkable. There's literally no cleanup. Now, one thing I do, right? And I've done this with all the sealants, but it works, I think, better with Joe's because the solution looks intact, right? If I crack my tire open and there's a bunch of sealant in there, I just don't throw that away or wash it off. I'll take it, scoop it out, you know, like those little plastic scoops you get with like new, you know, powdered mixes and things. Scoop it out, I'll put it back in the bottle, shake it up, because why throw that away? As long as it looks good, and this has looked good so far, I'll put it back in the bottle. And then there's just a little bit solution in there and it rinsed out super, super clean. And man, I'll tell you what, I'm loving that. So far, I haven't seen anything with Joe's No Flats I haven't liked. Well, that hasn't always been the case with other sealants. Now, is there any potential downside to this? Well, one that you need to know about. This is an ammonia-based sealant. By that, I mean there's ammonia in it. You can smell it, you know, when you're working with the sealant. I think some of the better sealants are ammonia-based because it helps that solution stay fresher and stay longer in your tire. But it has one downside for sure, and that is ammonia will attack aluminum surfaces, like for instance if you have aluminum nipples in your rim. Now, wheels are built with either typically brass nipples or aluminum alloy nipples, one of the two, unless it's like a carbon spoke or something like that, and then I don't know. But if you have aluminum alloy nipples and in an ammonia-based sealant like Joe's, if that works its way into the internal cavity of your rim and it sits for a long period of time on those alloy nipples, it will start to corrode and break down the nipple, and eventually, long term, that's going to lead to nipple failure. And you would have to have those nipples replaced, your wheel rebuilt. You don't want that to happen. Well, you say, well, granny gear, how does it get in there? Good question. I'm glad you asked. It's because the tape, the sealing tape, the tubeless tape, has not been maintained well. It's failed. And so the sealant and the air is getting underneath that tape, getting into the rim cavity through all the drilling of the spoke holes, and it just sits in there and does bad things to the aluminum nipples. Well, what's the answer to that? Well, first of all, that doesn't happen overnight, okay? You're not going to wake up the next day because your tape leaked and your rim is ruined. It's going to take a long time. What you should do is maintain your tape, shouldn't you? First of all, you're probably going to be leaking air through that at one level or another. And maybe your tubeless tires seem like, wow, it's only been 3 days and I'm putting air in it again. Could be, of course, your sealant is dried out and you need to replace your sealant or add more, okay? Could be that. Could be your tape has failed and it's getting under the tape. If your tape is leaking, quick tip, spray air up your wheel. You want to know like where the air is going. Take a little soapy water, dab it or spray it around your Presta valve where it sticks up through your rim. If it's leaking around the valve, almost certainly your rim tape is bad and needs to be replaced. It's not that big a deal to do it. You can buy tape, you can learn how to do it yourself. I'm sure there's videos on how to do that. Or I'm sure your local bike shop will be happy to retape your rim. But you know what? That's part of the responsibility. It's part of the handshake process between you and your tubeless setup. And it's your responsibility to keep that fresh. Because one thing, if your tape fails and you're out there riding and it just keeps leaking, you're going to be putting a tube in it anyway. So let's avoid all that and just take a good look at your tape every time you like change a tire or whatnot and have a look at if it's messed up, fix that. So I'm happy enough so far with Joe's sealant to say, yep, it gets a recommendation from me. And if you're interested in trying a different brand of sealant, if you're maybe unhappy with what you've got or you just want to try something else, well, I think this is well worth a look. And because of that, because of my experience with it so far, I agreed with Joe's. I say, you know what? I would like to have you guys come on as a channel sponsor. So Joe's No Flats is a full-on channel sponsor at that point. They supply this to me at no charges as I need it for the tires. I'll be using this in all the different tires and testing and across the lines of bikes within the Granny Gear household. And along those lines of them being a sponsor, there is an affiliate link in my description, and that takes you to the Joe's Amazon website, Amazon shopping page, and you can order that up of the different formulations they offer. And a little bit of the profits from that comes back to me because the link is tracked. And you know how affiliate links work. Benefits you, you get a product you like. Benefits Joe's, they sell some sealant. And it benefits this channel, Old Guy on a Bike, because they share a bit of the profits with me, which helps do things like, well, pay for that very expensive camera I just bought to make better videos so you enjoy watching them even more. So I appreciate Joe Snowflats reaching out to this little channel of mine, feeling good enough about it to say, hey, we'd like to partner up with you. And that is appreciated. All right, that's it for this Tech Tuesday video. You guys have a great week and or weekend. And as always, go ride your bikes. And if you think, well, it's about time for a better sealant, you know what to do.